I want to nerd out with you about the Millennium Falcon. Now, when you're on set, how much of it is practical, the buttons, etc., and then when you do the light speed shots, I know that there's clearly CG involved, but how do you make it look like it's how it looks in the movie? Is there a dolly zoom? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to give away too much, but I would say that the cockpit's very analog. I mean, it works, and even initiates some little bits of movement. Although it gets some help from the outside, with some hydraulics and things like that. Of course, you're not flying.
Yeah.
ILM and the visual effects people keep trying to make the experience of these movies as connected to reality as possible.
Yeah.
Particularly for the actors, for the cinematographer, Bradford Young, they actually have full screens around it. So when you make that transition, it happens. And you almost feel like you're on a virtual reality ride or
the
something.
light speed occurs in the set?
It happens. And this is the first time that's ever worked. And so we're able to shoot it in camera. The actors are reacting to it. The light is interacting with the characters in totally authentic ways. And it just makes it so much easier to be immersive, which of course is the goal for these movies. You want the fans to go on the journey with you, and we all could feel like we were on the ride.
Yeah. And one thing I love about filmmaking is, stories come out about different directors taking on different films. It's happened throughout the course of cinema. Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, they've had different directors have stepped in.
Right.
I'm curious, when you step into this project, obviously a lot of the film had been shot prior. Does any of the footage from the previous filmmaker still exist in your movie?
Yes, there is some, and certainly, and when things, work, especially on this kind of timetable, you certainly would preserve it. And there was, and there was a lot of great work that was already done, and we were able to build upon, experiment with, but this is an example of really the story being king.
Yeah.
Larry Kasdan wanted to work on this years ago, before Disney acquired Lucasfilm, for example, and thought about making more movies. He was sort of saying, what about a young Han Solo story? And he, of course, this is the fourth of the Star Wars movies that he's written on, and he also wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I think influences this movie a little bit
Totally.
too. The action, the nature of the fun has a little bit of a Raiders feel as well. So this is an instance of long before there were any directors, there was this idea hatched by this really brilliant guy, Larry Kasdan. George Lucas liked it, Kathy Kennedy liked it, and when it became a reality, everybody gave it everything that they had to service that story.
Now, one thing I love what you do in this movie is you balance score so well. Score is a leading character. John Williams' theme is masterful. It's one of the most iconic themes in the history of movies. But you have a new theme here. You have a new composer coming in, not a new composer, but a composer jumping into the Star Wars universe. Can you talk about blending his theme in with John's, when to take the John cues? Because to me, you don't ever overuse it. It's in the perfect moments.
Good.
But can you talk about how you directed that score?
Well, we talked about it a lot, and of course John Powell, who took on the job, who was recommended by John Williams, because he knew John Powell had a classical background and training as well, was great with a big orchestra. And John Williams wrote a couple of new Han Solo themes, which John Powell was elated about, and used, along with 4 new themes that he wrote as well for other characters and other situations. It's a really hats off to John Powell. He's a composer I've always wanted to work with, and I was really blown away. And he like a lot of us, felt a great responsibility to the legacy, but also the potential future of where these stories could take us. And so he gave a lot of himself, as did everybody involved, from start to finish with this project.
Yeah.
What's the type in?
This is a Breaking Bad. I had to do a little,
okay.
something a little
else.
off. Yeah.
This is incredible. Where the fuck do you?
Opposuits.com.
What is it?
It's opposuits.com. They're like $119 or something like that. You got to get one,
so
man.
So fun. I know. I should wear one for the whole tour.
Well, first of all, congratulations to you, man.
Thank you.
I was just nerding out with Ron Howard. I cannot believe that you guys, when you were in the Falcon, that you could actually see the light speed on screen.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how that helped you? This is the first time a Star Wars movie ever gave actors that ability.
It's incredible. Well, it's kind of like rear projection or something from the old movies where someone would be
Hitchcock,
driving a car and in the background. But it changed the whole experience. I think instead of looking at a green screen, we're really looking at all the things we're flying through and the stuff that's in space. I don't want to give anything away, but we're like flying, we're actually seeing it, and it's actually, and when we jump to light speed, it goes, awesome. And that was awesome. Yeah, it was so cool.
You could see light speed occurring on screens. What was that like to actually have, this is the first Star Wars movie ever to give the actors that ability. What was that like to see that?
It was so incredible for me. I just loved it. It was like an
It was
IMAX.
transcendent.
Yeah.
Because you did feel like you were taking off.
And it's moving. That's the thing. It's like it's
shaking
not like
underneath.
it's like so it's like on hydraulics. So it's like and it's like and then like you would slow down and be go.
Yeah.
Like it was so cool. It was really dope. You didn't have to pretend.
I cannot believe that on the Falcon you could actually see the light speed. Can you talk about nerding out and seeing that for the first time and stepping into the cockpit?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And my showrunners of Game of Thrones were there when I was on that day, and I came down the stairs and they're like, "You're ruined. Nothing we can do can ever compare to what you just experienced on this set." They're like, "Thanks. That's not going to happen when you come back to Game of Thrones, by the way. There's not going to be like a surround skyscape of you flying on a dragon." So it's just when you don't have to do so much acting. Everyone's always like, "Oh, you must need so much imagination with all the green." And then you do Star Wars and you need none.
Talk about interpreting a character versus impersonating a character. But the beauty of what you're doing here is that we've never seen Han like this.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sound or look exactly like Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
You talk about finding your own Han and also the vulnerable arc you go on from, like, because when we first meet Han in New Hope, he's cocky, he's arrogant. We haven't gotten to that stage yet. You're slowly getting there. You talk about finding that that new Han.
Well, I think that's really mainly how wonderful the job the writers did of kind of creating that. They know the characters so well, and so they really created this sort of arc and this thing. Han's never been the protagonist of the movie. He's never the eyes through which you're seeing the film. So in this one, it was finding a way to make that connection. And for me, it was kind of about absorbing everything I could from the original films and getting kind of a feel for it. But then ultimately you want it, it's important that it feels like a real person and its own character and its own person. And so, then forgetting about all that basically and kind of concentrating on who is he now and how does he, what's happening in this scene.
Now, different directors affect an actor's performance. That's the relationship a relationship actor has with the director. Now, when you film the footage you did with Lord and Miller, and now you film your movie with Ron Howard, I'm curious, did Han change at all? I know he's on the page as Lawrence Kasdan's character, but directors could change the way you play him.
Sure.
Was there any slight differences the way you played him with Howard than you played him with Lord and Miller?
Not really. I mean, I that was one thing I was curious about, when I first met Ron, but he was pretty much like, supportive of me going in continuing the same direction I was already doing it. Now, considering we know Han's ending from Force Awakens, I know that Han in your version doesn't know how he dies by the hand of his son, but knowing where he ends, how do you not let that affect the performance? I know Han does not know that, but is that something that you have to take away? How do you Yeah, you just don't think about it. You just kind of try not to. You don't think about it. Although when I was originally watching the original movies and I got to that part, I think it was knowing I was playing that role and seeing that it affected me even more than when I saw it originally.
What was that like watching his death scene?
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad. Yeah,
it's
really
absolutely
sad.
awful.
It's a really, it's a great scene. It's so well done, and it's a beautiful, the way they constructed the whole thing. And to me, like, Chewie moaning or yelling after he dies is one of the great moments in Star Wars.
And before I let you go, Rules Don't Apply was a movie I spoke to you about, and at that junket, you had not yet met Harrison Ford, and you were trying to get a meeting with him or talk to him somehow. What did you guys speak about when you met up for the first time? What questions did you ask him?
We're mainly talking about kind of his whole career and his trajectory and how he's kind of navigated all of it, which was so interesting because I think he's a great example of somebody who's stayed to the beat of his own drummer. And so kind of talking about that was really interesting, and he was so supportive and encouraging of the film and of me.
Yeah. Well, has he seen it yet?
I think he has.
What did he say?
He has. I haven't talked to him, but I heard it's very positive.
Just text him.
Great.
Text Harrison Ford.
I don't have his. I wish.
Yeah, good to see you all.
Good to see you,
Thank you so much
too.
for the nerd. Now, I'm a huge hip hop fan. I listen to your music all the time. I think Bonfire is one of the greatest songs ever. I love that song so much. And one of my buddies of mine is Peter Rosenberg. He does a show in 97. He did a freestyle on his show one time. It was absolutely incredible. And I wanted to know, like, how you're, like, when you're given a topic, I'm not going to ask you to freestyle, but when you're given a topic.
I wouldn't be able to.
I know, but when you're given a topic, though, where do you go to find, like, for example, if someone told you to rap about Lando or Star Wars, where do you go in your mind to start the freestyle? I've always wondered how that works.
No, you just have fun. Like, all of it's improv, so it's just like, what's the most fun? I feel like as an actor, like, that's always the thing I go to anyway. I'm just like, oh, what's the most fun? What's gonna make my friends laugh? What's gonna make my friends be like, oh, that was fun? Like, because the other part of that is it's just work.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it should be fun.
I don't know if this is a ridiculous question, but I'm genuinely curious because Lando, the smile is an awesome thing about Lando's character, and in the trailer we see it happen. It's an amazing thing. I'm curious if that's something that like was talked about. And I know smiling is something we all do, but specifically the way he smiles is so. When he does, you see it. It's awesome. I'm curious what your thoughts were. Like, did you talk to Ron Howard about those particular scenes, like when he does like have like a great smile in a sequence? I know it's a weird question, but I was curious.
No, I just I asked him a lot of just like the barometer of like what he needed. Like, it was very nice to be in this film and not have anything to do with the editing or directing or anything else, and just be able to act. And like, I don't know, smiling, that's my go-to for charm. Yeah. That's what I just do in real life for that, so it just felt right.
You know, when I walked in, I was telling you about Hero, who's like one of my favorite filmmakers. He's an amazing director. Obviously, the This Is America video is absolutely incredible, and just the way he shot that with the single takes. I was geeking out about the stitches he did. It was so cool. And this is something I was thinking about, because one of the things about that video that was amazing was the reactions to it online. People reacting to it. I know you're not going to speak on the themes about it, because it's up to us to think about that. But to me, Lando is a very opinionated person. He's a very thoughtful person. He knows everyone in the room. And this is just, I was just wondering, like, if he were to come across this video, like, what do you think he would think about it? Like, what do you think he would say? I know it's a crazy question. I'm just curious what he would think about it.
I have no idea. Like, I don't know. There's so many layers to that question of just like, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Is like, I don't think I can even answer that. Like, I really don't know.
I think he'd smile.
Yeah, for sure.
He'd probably smile.
I think he would smile. Yeah.
What in all fucking Christ is going on here?
I had the premiere, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I want to see your closet. That's just impressive.
It's like Lando's cape closet. Yeah.
Damn straight. You're like, I see you, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin McCarthy, Washington, D.C. I want to talk about the capes, because capes are awesome at
Capes are
life.
awesome.
And I love the sequence when they're showing off the cape specifically, but talk about what makes a cape so awesome and how you rock it so well. I mean, obviously, you know, Vision has one. You have one in this film at one point.
Well,
I mean, it's
You know what? I do a good line. You're right, because that's
Do a good line in capes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful cape in the Vision. Has.
No, not
It's
Vision,
kinda-
I'm sorry.
No, but it does. It's like an Art Deco piece of fabric. It's amazing, and there's only one of them, and it's beginning to fall apart. So you know, there's a lot of CG that goes on, but in this, asymmetrical.
Yeah. It's saucy.
Asymmetrical.
Yeah.
Gunslinger.
Absolutely. I always think of The Incredibles when we're talking about capes. No capes. Right? Listen,
Yes.
doesn't she do that because it's dangerous?
100% agree.
Not when you're in Star Wars. Not when you're Lando.
You know, as we sit here, I know you're filming Game of Thrones and currently, and it is weird because we're like sitting here talking, and you have to go back to set and become this character. And I'm curious, as we sit here and doing an interview, are you thinking at all about like the scenes you have to do next, or like, because obviously you're filming currently, so is that something that you think about during the day, like how I'm going to do this next scene or how this shot's going to work?
It's always in the back of my mind. But this, I'm at the beginning of a couple weeks of this, so you sort of can like rest easy. But there's a part of your brain that I think when you are working on a project and you jump out to do something else, there's just a part of my brain motor that is consistently there. Like I'm there. A bit of my brain is in Belfast right now, going, "What are we gonna do now?" Because there's a lot happening this season.
Now, have you seen Infinity War yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, the best thing about...
Because I've been riding dragons. I'm so sorry, darling. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I will.
You broke my heart.
I'm so sorry.
I'm curious what kind of messages you were getting from family and friends, without giving anything away, about the ending to the film. Because to me, the best part about going to see that movie in a theater is how crazy people react to what happens at the end. Did you get messages from friends and family saying, what the heck just happened?
No. No, I didn't. Well, no, I didn't. No.
Okay.
I'd like to say yes, but I would be lying to you.
Okay, I was just curious. I mean, it was
No.
incredibly
Well,
crazy.
and they were sort of with me when we went to see it together. So
Yeah.
they were there, and they were on set.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's an amazing movie. But congratulations to you both. Thank you so much for the amazing interview talking to you guys. And
Thank you
care,
so
mate.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you for the suit.
no, thank you for being awesome. You
There
guys
you
rock
go.
life. Have a wonderful day, okay?
Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
You're in your Star Wars outfit.
I am.
Dude, that is the greatest suit I've ever seen in my life.
Woody, I told you I almost wore my Natural Born Killer suit, and I don't know
well, no,
why.
That's got to be a good one.
Oliver Stone sent it to me in the mail. No, but I want to geek out with you guys.
What?
No, I was joking. I don't have a Natural Born Killer suit. I wish I did. That would be
No,
awesome.
that would be
I do.
Good idea.
I want to nerd out with you guys about the
Yeah.
train sequence because it is awesome to watch. And Ron Howard's one of the masters of creating action sequences. And I was nerding out with him earlier about the Falcon actually having screens where they could see the light speed on set, which is so cool.
The what? The Falcon?
The Falcon.
Oh,
yeah.
the ship.
Yeah, but I was wondering for you guys during the train sequence, how goofy does that look on set? I mean, I know it looks amazing in the film, but I'm assuming there has to be green screens and certain CG elements. But how does that scene look for you as actors? How do you keep it like realistic for the audience when you're doing different cuts of action?
You know, that scene was very interesting because it changed so much. Like it was, there was different action, different fight sequences, and when Ron came aboard, he had to just look at all the footage and figure it out. And quite a lot had been shot on the train already, so he rethought how that whole the action on the train would happen. But
really
there's
good.
massive amount of shooting on that train sequence.
There must have been so much.
Yeah.
I think maybe more
Because
than
it
any
was
scene
so.
in
I mean, it
history,
went
probably.
on for so much longer than
Like a
you would
year of
expect. No, but like on screen
Literally.
time.
Yeah, literally
It was
it
so
did.
because very often with special effects and stunt sequences, because they're expensive to make, right? And they don't last that long, and it's always when they're a bit longer. That's when it gets really dope. Like I shouldn't talk about another film. Because we're talking about this one.
Yeah, no,
But
we
I'm
just
talking about
talk
another one.
about,
I'll tell you later.
Let's talk about
You mentioned
Solo, yes.
some of the footage already being shot, and to me it's interesting because a lot of acting comes from your director, and you have a relationship, and that's how the arc works. And if Lord and Miller shooting some of that action scene, and then Ron Howard coming in, how does your performance change with a different director? Because I would imagine that like he has to talk to you differently, he's directing you differently. Did you find it hard to was it a different? Were there anything different about your performances with a different director?
Well, I think
You had more to do
He
with
made
them.
his modifications, kind of changed the way that scene went. So, yeah, he's a great director, and he shifted it, but like that wasn't. It didn't. He approved everything, but he didn't shoot all of it because there's a second unit, then there's a splinter unit, and there was so much. Shooting on that particular sequence. Anyway, it turned out great.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask one more.
Yeah, God.
Is it already
Hurry
wrapped?
up.
Wait.
Hurry up with
That's
his
the fastest
answer.
4
You really
minutes.
don't want me to interrupt him? That was the most boring answer to a question I have ever
But I'm
heard
always
in my
boring
life.
every time.
But
Have
that's
you
right,
ever
but
seen
then
an
they came
interview
and
with me?
told us off.
It is like
They came and
literally
told us
lights
off.
out. Let's
no, but
go
listen,
to sleep.
seriously, they came and told me off.
told
I did have
you?
one
Yeah,
serious
they did
question
tell
for
you
you guys.
Talking, so it's like
It
you
did
want
seem
that.
like
That
you
is
got
so
talking
boring.
to.
I was like dying.
It'd be
with
much
boredom
more
then. I was
interesting
like,
if you did the
seriously.
talking.
No, but they just came and told me to shut the fuck up. And I am dying. I was sitting there like, oh, Woody, please get through this sentence if you can.
I realized it too.
Shut
I could feel you're just on the verge of
I
sleep.
just started looking at your ear.
I just
started looking at your ear, just checking it out, because I was so bored out of my skull.
Really, I could
This is
feel
my
your
favorite interview
eyelids
ever.
getting so heavy. As I'm talking, I could just feel your eyelids sinking.
I thought your answer was
I was
awesome.
dying with boredom. You poor fucker, honestly.
It's a really good answer. I liked it, Woody.
Thank you.
I'm a fan of your answer.
Thank you.
All right, well, they're wrapping,
No,
you guys.
it was
Thank
so
you so
I'm
much.
so desperate, I'll believe you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
First of all, I'm genuinely curious how the difference was in regards to being on the Falcon with Ford as Solo versus Alden as Solo, and how different was that performance-wise for you, acting across the two different actors playing the same character?
Well, I was so surprised by whenever Harrison steps on set, everyone quiets down. No one says a word until Harrison cracks a joke or something. With Alden, he's such a nice guy, and he came in so prepared for his role as younger Han, and he portrayed it so well. He put so much effort into it that everyone was just taken back by how much genuine youthfulness he brings into the role, and that's one of the things, and that's never something that Harrison did, because he was always that Han.
Yeah.
And you were able to see a really big rite of passage story in this one, and Alden just nailed it.
For Chewie's lines, I understand that there's translations as to what he means, and I remember talking to Chris Pratt about working with Groot and how it was similar in regards to when he would say "I am Groot," they would have to translate it, and or Vin Diesel would have like a specific version of what he was saying. I'm curious for you what you see in the script and how you inflect your voice to get the certain words down. How does that work for you?
Yeah, well, actually, I heard that the sound team and Ron they had these versions of my lines up until very last moments, and they were wondering if they should keep them in or put bear sounds in, and the Bears eventually won. But I was really happy to hear that.
Wait, those are bear sounds?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that you were doing it inside the suit. I didn't know idea that was a bear sound. That's
It's
crazy.
yeah, mostly bears and other animals. But the list goes. I've heard different animals. It always changes.
Because people can do the Chewie sound effect. Like I've heard people do it. I'm like, how is that possible?
Exactly. Yeah. So, but in order to get that really big animal sound, you got to go for the bears, I think, especially for the roars. But it's just something I do to help my co-actors and help them to get into the space of that we're in the Millennium Falcon right now, and there's a Wookiee demanding answers to an important problem, and I try to just find a way to do the voice whenever I can.
And they paint your eyes black, right? That way,
Yes.
it's really kind of crazy to see I saw pictures of Peter Mayhew without the suit, the helmet, or the head thing on. It was like crazy to see
exactly. It's this kind of goth makeup or a raccoon kind of makeup.
It's really cool. Thank you so much for the interview.